budget, taxing all these extravagant, you know, reinforcing your taxation administration, doing a number of things on luxury items, less widening the VAT, and well, that time it was not VAT, but ensuring that there is enough revenue to do the good work that you want to do, more education, health, security, and all of that.
Would you want to reflect a little, since you've mentioned it, on the rebuttal and the wrap-up presentation of Minister Jordan during the budget debate, specifically as it related to some of the cries of the opposition leader with regard to how onerous the budget might be on the poor people?
Imran, if you know Bharat Jagdeo, you know that he could put on, I know him. He can put on that face. He got a face for everything. And when he done with you, he would be, it is a remarkable trait that he has, which is going to impress you, that by a factor thing there, you know. But this is the same by a walk around the marrow 7 times and did not marry that girl. Do you understand that? And don't please edit that for me. That must be here, because that's this deception of the character. He raised that thing by 4% and managed to get so much surplus that he could zero rate. And when we are now making everything 12%, he going to say it's onerous. You have to understand him. Very clever, very deceptive. He said that after 2 terms, he will never come back in politics. He going to go plant some rice somewhere. A man come back. He never here. Opposition leader. Still wants to be in power and wants now to get his hand in that oil sector that has been found by ExxonMobil. You take it from me. And then he's going to go and do all these things. And I'm not saying that this administration is not going to be without its mistakes. It will make. But we must understand that we try as best to correct it. And that is what we did in relation to the bond. That is what we're going to do in relation to everything. But we're going to be transparent about everything. You rest assured, we are going to do that. But knowing what he did and all the wild talk about it being onerous, it is far superior a budget that he had in 2007 when he jacked that thing up to 16%. And in correcting an arrangement, especially a tax arrangement, we are going to have some pains. It is unnatural. But moreover,
Growing pains.
Growing pains, yes, corrective pains. It's like the doctor giving you for your sickness a certain thing that would have some after effects, and that is what is going to happen. And especially to the young people out there, I want you to understand it that way. But moreover, we had other doctors that came in and advised this thing, the Tax Review Committee. And that is why I must say, in that rebuttal speech to Jagdeo, again, the Minister of Finance was just fantastic. He didn't do it not because only we had made a promise that within our term we're going to reduce VAT to 12%. He got the advice from a tax review committee made up of very prominent Guyanese, including Christopher Ram, who was very critical of the budget. But more than that, there was an IMF team called CARTAC that told him that it went wrong from 2007 because of the zero rating of a lot of items. You cannot do that. You're going to distort your taxation and your revenue streams. But Jagdeo did that because he had the luxury of 4%, which totaled in the vicinity during that 5-year period. You multiply 16 billion literally by 5. Imagine that. So he could zero rate. He could zero rate certain things. And I have checked what he has zero rated. And it was to entrench certain friends that had businesses in those sectors. That is what he did. And let me tell you something. A lot more studies should be gone into those things. And then he go and give the impression, oh, I was doing a wonderful job during that 5-year, 2007 to 2011 or whatever it is. No. We have to correct a lot of it. And I am hoping that people are going to appreciate what Mr. Jordan is doing here. And Mr. Jordan is not your ordinary economist and Minister of Finance. Jordan did almost every single one, right up to, I think, 2005. All these budgets From 1992, he was there as budget director, I can't recall, and some advisor position. And long before that, he was in that department. So it is not a greenhorn that we have put to do our budget. It's somebody that was a professional that have done it very many times. And it's like, you know, a seasoned lawyer going to court. You carry him to court. You don't go with a greenhorn. You go there with somebody that got the expertise and the experience. And that is what the Minister of Finance is. A man with tremendous experience, a man with tremendous expertise. And I had to do what I did, support that budget. It is in the context of the times internationally. It is the context of corrective measures in the Guyana itself, so that we now, with that new configuration, a better configuration, can then take this country forward. And we got to do it now. We don't wait around. Hard decision must be made now.
Vice President, we've spoken at length about the general budget measures, but I want to take you into your sector, public security.
Yes.
But before we look at 2017, I'll ask you to reflect on 2016. You've had some challenges this year. You've had issues with crime continuing, even though the statistics are showing that there's a lower rate of crime. You've had some issues with the prison and an incident there that was heartrending, one would say, and must have affected you. Speak to us about some of those challenges and some of those successes. You've had a very notable success in this year and going back to 2015 as well with regard to piracy, and now you hardly ever hear about piracy in Guyana.
Look, we have made a lot of successes. There have been huge challenges that will come in the context of a developing society like ours. We have a prison that is very old, dilapidated. We have certain systems in the country where prisoners are there overpopulated in that very short, small space at Camp Street. We have them having genuine concerns about not having early trials. The conditions are not best in any prison, as you would know, and probably in a Guyanese scenario, it would be even worse than other countries. So we had that very explosive situation. 17 people got killed, and that was an extremely bad incident during the course of the year. However, we have managed to understand all the problems there and gotten in association with the Chancellor of the Judiciary, the Chief Magistrate, the Police Commissioner, the Prison Director, and so on, to work out solutions to ensure that it is not going to be as overpopulated as it is. But there are some difficulties I'm having, because during this Christmas time, as you would appreciate, there are some people who are, well, not some people, a lot of people who have been snatching and robbing and doing all of that, but they are being caught. And we don't want them to come out back on the street by getting bail. We want them in the lockups there, and they'll have to go back to Camp Street. So you're going to find yourself having a lot of them during the Christmas season that want to take advantage, getting caught, and then again overpopulating there. What we have done as part of grand reconfiguration is to indicate that we have to carry more of the prisoners to Mazaruni. We have spread some of them out into the other prisons, Luziknan and Timeri and so on, and New Amsterdam. But the necessity of the situation now demand that for the year 2017, in relation to prisons, we have to do some major infrastructural works to take care of the inmates in Mazaruni. But in taking care of the inmates in the Mazaruni, the ratio of prison officers to prisoners, inmates, will be far greater now. So we have to also expand on the housing capacity of our prison officers. And that is why about $500 million have been put aside for next year to expand Mazaruni. It is going to be far more money that is needed, but for that first year, the design of a very strong, safe prison system, structures there that is going to be expanded, and also some new buildings and houses for our prison officers that are going to be taken there. We have to also arrange what is called a launch that will be owned by the prison, that will be secure and so on, to carry the prisoners more often there, and so on. And also to also do major rehabilitation work on what was burnt at cell number 1 and cell number 2. That is the prime cells that were burnt as a result of that fire. We are going to complete the works in the brick prison, which had started under Mr. Rohi, and very shortly we're going to complete that. We also want to do some rehabilitation at New Amsterdam, because, you know, recently some of the inmates escaped through a window and they broke the bars, and a number of issues. But we also have to strengthen our surveillance of these buildings, because what also riled the people up inside is the fact that of marijuana, the taking of drugs, and a whole host of other things. Only too recently, people now, because we have strengthened the security and the surveillance at the door by even checking prison officers and all the prisoners and their relatives and so on more thoroughly, we find they're using long bamboo sticks now at New Amsterdam to send in. I understand they were caught with about 700 grams of marijuana. We got to do a lot of things, but also the members of the community who would see that these things are happening in and around the prison, they also must pick up the phone and call the police or call the director or the prison, so that we can know. People are shying in a lot of telephones and all of that in through the systems, and the prisoners are collecting them in there. We have to be on the alert too, as people, members of the community. We have, even in the police force, the problems of the crime situation. But I want the people out there to understand. I noticed that I was cartooned today in the Stabroek News as if I am giving wrong figures about the crime rates. As against last year and even the previous year, this is the lowest for about 10 years. Since 2000 and how much? 2004 to 2017. That's even more than 30. We have been having serious offenses that were topping 4,000. Last year it was 3,900 or thereabouts. This year it just got above 3,000. Now that is not good for the ear of people who have been robbed and a society that is so fearful of all these robberies. It is true. But somehow we are not getting the message that the police are doing a far better job, and that is as a result of them gaining more confidence by members of the public, and also getting a huge set of training, which is a big portion of the budget, from experts from overseas. Right now, the Justice Education Society continues its training at the Police Academy. We have been getting lots of training from the Americans, and over 300 or 400 officers during the tenure since I have been in administration at the public have gotten scholarships to go overseas for training. Now, I didn't know why the previous administration wasn't doing that. Everyone was blocked, literally. But you know, when you expose a police officer to some training, and then he goes and he meets some Jamaicans and a Trinidadian guy or an American at this academy, wheresoever they have it, if it is in New York, or it's in Miami, or even in one of these Latin American countries, it exposes their horizons as shift. They learn so much more, and they feel comfortable having gone to meet some other police officers from other countries who they will set up and get their email and talk to and learn a couple of things.
Knowledge sharing.
Knowledge sharing. If that alone, policemen will be brighter for, why didn't they do it? We are doing it, and that is why, you know, yesterday we were having meals down there when we heard Hotel Tower, outside of it, robbery. And you know, some of the opposition members, they gloated about it. Ramjatan, how are you going to do about that? Luckily, half an hour or an hour after, the men were caught with the haversack in the trench and whatever. So I said, this is what I will do, and this is what we're going to continue to do. We're not going to solve all, but I have set in motion that which is going to allow the catching of the criminals.
And I think, to be fair, the public, while still very concerned about the rate of crime, as you would expect, as is natural, it's a natural human condition, they do recognize that there's a greater number of cases being solved, a greater number of arrests being made related to crimes.
But they also, the perception that is given when it is emblazoned every day, and we, as a government, can't do anything about that. When it is emblazoned in the newspapers every day, it also magnifies or amplifies the criminality within the society. You know what I mean? But it is not true that indeed the figures are down as against last year and even the year before. And that is what I'm trying to, as best as possible, to tell reporters. There are lots of other good things that are happening in this society. But somehow you open the page, bam, you go into the cartoon section, Ramjatan there, saying, and a man come in with a bullet-ridden hat and shirt and so on. It is telling, but it is not really reflective of the truth because it has been going down. Of course, indeed, I agree that we got to try better to let it go further down. And that is why we have other projects, like the social programs of at-risk youth. Right now, we have in the process of selecting the 55 youths from 20 different communities. And it will be every year for the next 4 years, 1,100 youths who are going to be deemed at risk because of their behavior. They're not doing so well at school. And the community, let's say it's the community at some area in Georgetown here that we have clustered, and what you call the community officer, who we're going to pay a salary, and a substantial salary, they're going to help in the selection of these at-risk youth. And we're going to pay them $70 per month to go to a vocational school, to learn whether it's mechanic, whether it is refrigeration repairs, air conditioning, something, masonry, carpentry, something. And we're going to shift 1,100 people every year from 20 communities, ranging from Crabwood Creek right up to Suddy. And I think there's one at Linden too. And so that we're going to ensure that that be done. Because look, law enforcement will never be all of it. Law enforcement is just one component, and that comes post-crime. We want to deal with the thing pre-crime, to prevent rather than detect. And prevention means getting at those youngsters who are quite noticeably going to be bad, in the sense of if you don't divert their attention to something more profitable and productive. And that is what we're going to do. That's a big, big aspect of this budget. And this year it will start. And the first 1,100 ought to be trained in a 9-month program or an 8-month program. That will start early this year, 2017, and then it'll continue 2018, 2019, and 2020. A 4-year program that will lead to almost 4,400 young people being trained to take them out from that. We also have some funding also for community policing group. And we want to train community policing groups to become community policemen, in the sense of identifying that girl who's having problems with her family or her boyfriend, to the extent that, you know, to avoid her going to commit the suicide. The suicide rate is so big in Guyana, one of the highest in the world. And we got to do something about it.
Epidemic levels.
Yes, and apart from that, too, getting community policing to do all of that, teenage pregnancy, counseling sessions at the community level. It is also going to be coincide with some programs that